Good evening. Can we please give a huge bravo up here for Sam Savage, who's going to come and talk about Biscuits.
Hello everyone, are you okay? Yeah. I'm actually from Essex, so I'm surprised that Tim didn't announce me earlier. No, I'm only joking. This is such a beautiful room, isn't it? It's really nice. It's very, feeling quite Christmassy. It's quite, yeah, it's a lovely little room. You're going to see Pete in after the next section. Yeah, you'll have a break and then you'll see Pete. And Pete runs the night. And quite a few months ago, I'd gone to watch his night, and at the end of it, I thought, I really like that idea. I'd quite like to talk about something. So I sort of went up at the end of the night and said, I'd really like to talk about Brenda Blethyn. She's the most incredible actress I've ever seen. And David, who was in the group, said, what films has she been in? And you know when your brain just says, yeah, I've got nothing. And I just stared for a little while and went, she's like, she does, so instead of actually saying what film she'd been in, I just pulled the facial expression she had pulled when she had been in those films, because I thought they'll get that. So I just said, look, she does a lot of like, and then Pete stepped in and went, Sam, mate, why don't you talk about what you know, like Biscuits? Which is true, really, because if I'm honest with you, I'm not ambitious in the slightest, you know. I mean, I wish I was, but all I've ever really wanted from life is a smaller forehead and some biscuits. So, you should stick with what you know, let's be honest. And I am an expert at biscuits, so I thought that was probably the best thing to bring to you this evening. I think at the end of the day, you know, regardless of what jobs we do, who we are in life, how life pans out, you basically know from childhood through adulthood what makes you feel good and what doesn't. You have an instinct, you trust that instinct, you know, it's always the best way to go. Biscuits have always made me feel good. Through breakups, sad times, happy times, good times, medium times, low times, up here times, these sort of times, these times, woo! In times, I am always 100% put my trust and faith in good old-fashioned biscuits. And I implore you to do the same. No, put your faith in whatever you want to put it in, really, but for me it's biscuits 100%. Now, how does life feel without the thing that makes us feel good? That moment, come on, they were fine, that was 2 seconds. I ate their biscuit, I shouldn't have, it was a good photo opportunity. We all know that moment when you go round a friend's house and you know what sort of friend they are by the biscuits they get out of the cupboard. Now, there are some friends who keep the good biscuits for themselves. And you don't mention it, not at the time, but you notice it. You notice when they get the old shoddy biscuits out that there are better ones in the cupboard that they might only get out if you've had a breakup. But that moment that they reach for the biscuit tin, that moment of hope, that moment of joy, and that moment when you think, it's going to be okay. That is my biscuit face. From childhood, adulthood, I don't know a great deal about politics, I don't know much about how the world works. I try and get involved, I do a lot of nodding if I'm with really intelligent friends. I'll do a bit of like, oh yeah. Through the quiz I did a bit of it, it could be this, it could be that. I knew I didn't know. But you participate, don't you? You pull your face, I don't know, it could be A or B. You know, I haven't got a clue, but you hope you win. We didn't win, but we tried our best. But there's not one moment in my life when I haven't known the power of my own biscuit face. To know what makes you happy in life and what doesn't, regardless of where you've come from and who you are and how you live your life, that in itself, to know what makes you happy and what doesn't, oh, that is a powerful tool. I'm not saying biscuits don't involve drama. They do, to a certain level. It's like an EastEnders. Here we go. A woman accidentally eats a biscuit covered in ants thinking they were seeds. That was news. Yeah, that was news not that long ago. You're nodding like, I remember that story. What I love about this is a couple of things. Firstly, I've eaten a lot of biscuits. I would call myself a biscuit expert. But I'd like to know that I knew the difference between seeds and ants. Seeds are a lot slower, aren't they? And I love that the woman is just a little bit like, oh, what am I like? Seeds and ants. She said that she started to notice a difference when her mouth tasted of copper and she felt as though she was eating ant dust. But there are lots of countries where ants are actually very, high in protein. They have it as a bit of a snack. Anyone here who would eat ants? Just, as a bit of a snack, not just off your sort of sideboard. Just, well, I love that. As one very determined. You were like, I've been waiting for this question all my life. Yes, I would. You were so determined. Obviously, various countries eat different things, don't they? And I think what they're saying, they're quite high in protein. They're quite crunchy, from what I can gather, if you fry them right. So have you eaten ants before, or any sort of crickets? Or
I've eaten crickets.
Crickets, and what do they taste like?
They taste like, I think they're prawns.
They taste like prawns?
They're a little bit fishy.
Like the cheaper version of prawns, I imagine. So crunchier prawns, possibly. Are they quite crunchy?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go, then. Next time you end up with a household pest. Now, I kind of love this because I think sometimes there's a lot of things that are going on in the world that we need to address. And other times, there's not so much going on, and the newspapers have a little look round for a story. Biscuit lorry loses its load of ginger nuts and bourbon creams. Absolute chaos on the road. Absolute chaos. Is that making any of you hungry, that picture? A few people that won't admit it. The lorry's overturned. Thankfully, everyone's okay. I did check that first. Everyone was okay. Lorry overturned. Lots of biscuits. Now, we've got someone looking into it. They're having a talk about the biscuits. Now, what I love, it's very blurry, but you can just see the touching of the beard, the intensity of the stare. Bourbons, you say? I think I might have to chew on this. Now, the biscuit obviously has been a while within our lifetime. We've probably eaten. Who are the biscuit fans here? Is there anybody here that doesn't like biscuits, that doesn't eat biscuits? Not one person. Do you know, at the end of this, I do a top 10 of biscuits, and in Worthing, I did my top 10 of biscuits, and we had to call security. But people, I must admit, wherever I go, people do love biscuits, and it's just such a lovely thing. Now, biscuit is basically, it has Latin roots. It goes back to twice baked, and they were baked twice many years ago. Soldiers would take them when they went to war because they were just, indestructible, really. They were a lot tougher than the sort of biscuits we would know. There would mainly be flour and water, and they often would be infested with holes that were known as worm castles, because you would often have little mites or maggots that would get into the biscuit and that would eat them over time. But if you're going to war and you're going to be away from home for quite a considerable amount of time, it was a fantastic thing to take with you at that particular time and to eat. The Romans, as they often did, they'd invented the biscuit before. They were calling it the rusk, and actually the Romans' version was often bread that was baked to be incredibly hard, so it had that really crunchy texture. They're also pretty hot on toilets, the Romans, apparently, weren't they? But I don't know. It's a rumour. What's that? Sorry, a toilet expert. Oh, what's that about the Romans?
What did they ever do for us?
Hey! And that is why I picked that picture, because come on, that's one of the best films, isn't it? Thank you. I'm just not going to do any impressions, but inside I'm really having to hold that in. Okay, here's our man. This is, do we know who this is? This is...
McVitie?
McVitie! Oh, sorry.
Ginger nuts.
Yeah, that was just such a random word to yell. Ginger nuts, they did absolutely make ginger nuts as well. Robert McVitie, or McFitty as he liked to be called. He didn't, I just made that bit up, I really like that bit. Robert McVitie, he was the guy that kind of, I mean, before that we had Huntley and Palmer, and they made biscuits previous to him, but he was the one that probably made a bit of a stamp with it all. Many years ago, way before Robert's time, we had an epidemic of flatulence. And basically, it got to a point where people said, enough's enough, we need to be finding some foods that people can eat to stop the epidemic of flatulence. I'm just going to read you a poem about that now. No, I'm not. There's no words rhyme with flatulence. It's quite tough. But, yeah. So, Robert, basically, they gave him, look, can you do something about this? Can you make a biscuit that's actually good and makes us feel better? And what Robert did was he added baking soda into digestive biscuits, which is known, in terms of the name digestive, very good for your digestion. But the person that actually, in his company, came up with the idea was Alexander Grant, Alexander Grant, came up with the idea of the digestive biscuit. But obviously, it's only McVitie's that took the credit for it. So it's hard, isn't it, when you're at work and you come up with a good idea, but your company takes it. But he went on to make a huge amount of biscuits. I mean, McVitie's nowadays, they basically sell 23 million biscuits per day. That's incredible when you think of that amount of... We're actually the biggest biscuit eating country in the world. In the world, exactly. I mean, football's not coming home, but biscuits are. So we are. And apparently in lockdown, our biscuit eating went up. It was something like 19 million. It was like lockdown times was absolutely insane. We really tucked into those biscuits. There was no stopping us, as it should be, really. So here is like a typical biscuit factory, McVitie biscuit factory, as you can say. The ladies are there as the biscuits come down along the conveyor belt. And this just happens to be Robert McVitie as a child. I mean, I have no reason to put that in there other than that is the cutest child I've ever seen in a baker's hat. And if you were to look at him and say, what would you like to be when you grow up, Robert? Oh, come on, it's in the stars, absolutely. That's Robert McVitie, made for biscuits. Now, if you're going to sell anything to the whole of the world, you have to do a little bit of advertising, don't you? Because that's what people love. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the posters from years ago. We have McVitie and Price, which is just, obviously, you've got a very sort of together woman saying, oh, and I must remember to buy some McVitie and Bryce biscuits. And she's got a sort of hand, which is what you do when you think about things, isn't it? You think, say, oh, let's have a picture of you looking thoughtful. And she's really gone for it, and she's absolutely nailed it there. Here we have, you know when you nail it and you don't nail it so much? We've got McVitie's, oh, the room's divided with this one. We've got McVitie's home wheat, and at some point, obviously they went to a marketing team, they all sat around a table and someone went, oh, I don't know how should we work this vintage chocolate biscuit we've brought out? Well, I don't know, we should have a woman that's covered in chocolate. But the problem with that would be half of the room think like me, and the other half of the room are probably saying, oh, she's just covered in chocolate. But possibly the weirdest mermaid you're ever likely to meet. But that's advertising, it might have worked at the time. And then we have, here we go, the absolutely winning tagline. Many years ago, the posters they would use, shut your eyes and open your mouth. Shut your eyes, open your mouth. That hasn't aged so well, has it, that one? Here we have Queen Victoria. Now, Queen Victoria was a very strong woman. She knew what she wanted, she knew what she didn't want, and what she didn't want was a biscuit named after herself. She was offered, because she was royalty, she was incredible, and everyone loved her, said, Queen Victoria, please let us name a biscuit after you. And she went, no, she wouldn't allow it. She thought it was rather vulgar. However, her husband Albert did have a biscuit named after him, and it was the Albert biscuit. The Albert biscuit. Did we miss one? We did. Okay, so these are the Biddington... Sorry, I just need to get the date right here, because I was... Right. Okay, so these are the Biddington twins. They are conjoined. I just want to get, 16th century. So it's Mary and Eliza Chalkhurst. So they're in Kent, which is not so far from here really, but this is the 16th century. They were, sorry, I've just realised that I've put up a picture of a biscuit and you're like, what are you talking about? They are real people, and I'll show you in a minute. But they basically were born joined by the shoulder and the hip. Now, if you think about in the 16th century, medically, they weren't that far ahead, so it's probably an incredibly difficult life for them, and they were really lucky to have survived it. But what they did for society and what they did for their village was absolutely incredible. They would often sell biscuits and cakes, and the monies that they had made from that, they would give into the village, and they would help people that were poorer than them. They both died at the age of 34. Apparently, I mean, you don't know how much of this is true when you're looking at how long ago it was, but apparently they would often quarrel and fight. And I can't imagine the idea of fighting with your sister and you can't actually leave and just go, you need 5 minutes to yourself. So, as you can see, this is, which is a lovely, lovely tribute. It really is. Okay, right, so this is one of the most expensive biscuits there ever was. There was one for one of Shackleton's expeditions, which actually sold for £3,000, but this particular one is incredibly expensive. Yeah, biscuit cracker. It's, Do we know why it would be such a auction-worthy biscuit? Any ideas? Just yell out at me. Sorry? Yes, perfect. It came from the Titanic. It was in one of the survival kits, and it lasted all that time, and it went to auction not that long ago, actually, quite a few years, but not that long ago. Any ideas what that would have sold for?
£5,000.
5,000? Way under.
10,000.
27. 50,000.
Very close. Whoever said 27, it's £23,000. £23,000. Do you imagine dipping that into your tea? From the Titanic, absolutely incredible. Now, I've just realised the time, sorry, I have really gone on. Right, Tim Tam. So, Have we heard of Tim Tam biscuits? Yeah. Has anybody heard about the trick that Australian people, you should do this with Tim Tam, it's the most amazing thing to do with Tim Tams. Anybody? Which, yeah, go on, say. That's it. So apparently, is it like you bite off one corner at the top, you bite off a corner at the bottom, and you drink tea through it, and it's meant to be the most life-changing experience. You drink port through it? Are you having port every morning, Grandma? It's quite full on, isn't it? Chocolate and port. So yeah, you drink tea through it, or port, as this gentleman suggested, which is quite full on for a day. Every day in your lunch break. Whatever makes you happy, that's all that matters. Yeah, so apparently, and then as someone pointed out at one of the talks, it's just a penguin bar, which I think they're probably right. Now here we go, we've got Paris Hilton looking absolutely disgusted at some of this, but we have got now what they call, inspired by British cuisine, Tim Tam. Disgust. Tim Tam biscuits. You're probably right. I'm going to read these out, and all I want you to do is give me a cheer if you'd be up for trying this sort of biscuit, or give me like, rah, no way. So I'll take the flavour, and you just let me know yes or no. Right, we have, top of the list, bangers and mash biscuit. They're experimenting. We've got Scotch egg. You're up for it. We have fish and chips. Scones and cream. I think you'd probably be up for trying everything. Right, okay, what I'm going to do, I am going to be bringing round, I was going to get you up here to try some biscuits, but we haven't got time, unfortunately. I've been waffling. No, I'm not taking the biscuits away from you. That would be criminal. I will be still giving you biscuits at the end. But what I'm going to do now is just quickly go through this is only my personal top 10 of biscuits. As I say in Worthing, we had to call security, there was uproar. And you may, feel free to just yell out if you're like, yeah, I don't agree with that. I'm absolutely happy with that. Let me know what your personal choices are. Right, here we go. So top 10 of my top 10 of biscuits. We have easygoing Maryland cookie. It's quite tasty, it's quite nibbly. Not for you, wouldn't put it in your top 10. No, that's fair enough. Next up we have the Oreo cookie. It's not a bad biscuit. For number 9, it's not a bad biscuit. It's very sweet. It's a little bit too much. You couldn't have more than 3 or 4. I agree. But it's it's tasty. It's nice. It's not bad to dip in your tea. Now this is an old classic. This is your malted milk. Yeah, we like it. The malted milk is the winner, baby. The malted milk is the winner. It's really good in tea, and also when you dunk it, it's absolutely beautiful. It's got that perfect dunking quality that we love. That's what we're looking for. Next up we have, now I've only just put this in, but you have to try, yeah, I mean, not many people have tried these, but this is your pistachio and almond cookie. If you haven't tried this is like the sort of the pinnacle of biscuit enjoyment. But don't tell your friends about it, eat it by yourself. Hide them in that cookie jar. So we have, you can't go wrong with shortbread. It has to be the right combination of butter. The buttery taste is the thing that makes it just, perfection. Here we have the Jaffa cake. There was a court case in the end. Is it Jaffa cake? Is it biscuit? What do we think? Jaffa cake? Is it a cake? Or is it a biscuit? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Cake? Right, I'm going to tell you which way the court case went, because it actually went to court. It was that because they didn't want to pay tax, which is fair enough, none of us do. So I'm going to say cake or biscuit and let me know. Do you think it was ruled as a cake? Do you think the Jaffa cake was ruled as a biscuit? It went to court and it was ruled as a cake. But we all still eat it as a biscuit. We have custard creams. They're like a good budget biscuit. They taste fantastic in tea. Again, you can't eat 2 packets without losing some teeth, but they are worth it. And also, actually, 25 million people have gone to hospital hospital with biscuit-related injuries. The biscuit-related injuries are then putting their hand into their cup of tea to get their biscuit that has dissolved. Now, the maniacs that end up at hospital with these biscuit-related injuries are found to be mainly custard cream people. So if you eat a custard cream, you're more likely to be a lunatic. Custard cream people, watch out, you're all down the A&E. Right, digestive biscuits. They are reliable, they're loyal, they're tasty, they've got a bit of oat and they've got a bit of sugar. They're not incredible, but they're reliable and they're worth eating. Then we have the ginger nut biscuit. We like a ginger nut biscuit many years ago. Apparently they're supposed to be good for your stomach and other health issues from many, many years ago. But ginger nut, I like them. They've got something special. Now, number one of my top 10 biscuits, you may not agree with this, and I'm absolutely fine with it.
Garibaldi.
No, yell out. What's your favourite biscuit? Come on, Garibaldi. Garibaldi, yeah, Garibaldis are good. Anyone here favourite biscuits? Pink Quavers. Wow, that's a bit out there, but that's great. That's quite a unique Pink Quavers. They're melt in the mouth goodness, aren't they, Pink Quavers? Absolutely delicious. Right, okay, well, number one that I went for, you can think about your personal number one biscuit. Here we go. Chocolate. Chocolatey goodness. It's a beautiful budget biscuit that feels like you're at Buckingham Palace. It's got a little bit of saucy, classy goodness and a melt in your mouth, chocolatey delight. As I say, it may not be the same as yours, but thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely evening.